As we wait to see whether Donald Trump will be arrested and indicted in New York, we have new news out of Georgia that there may be potential racketeering and conspiracy charges there coming against the failed former president, Donald Trump. This is, again, the belief about mounting legal troubles without yet even knowing whether the New York indictment is going to happen. Now, before I get into this CNN report about what we have learned, I want to remind people that one of the possibilities, if and when the New York indictment of Trump comes down, which Trump said would be today, certainly not seeming like it's going to be today, but we will follow it. One of the reactions was, it's kind of a weak charge. It's not the strongest charge that could be made against Trump. And I agreed with that. And the hope was that we know there have been prosecutors who, despite having great evidence against Trump, have been hesitant to be the first to indict a sitting or former president, and now a former president. Is it possible that the Stormy Daniels charges will break the levee and then we will see other indictments come in? That's the hope. And if that's the case, CNN reports that Georgia prosecutors are considering racketeering and conspiracy charges. And this is all related to Trump's effort to overturn the results in Georgia in the 2020 election, where, of course, Joe Biden won because Joe Biden received more votes. CNN reports Atlanta area prosecutors are considering racketeering and conspiracy charges. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis could make decisions on charges this spring. Willis will bring her charging recommendations to the regularly seated grand juries, each serving 2-month terms. 2 regular grand juries were seated in March. The next batch will be sworn in May. Investigators have at least 3 recordings of Trump pressuring Georgia officials, including a phone call that he made to the Georgia House Speaker to push for a special session to overturn Democrat Joe Biden's 2020 victory. There's also a recording of Trump's call to a top investigator with the Georgia Secretary of State's office, where they were looking into quashed allegations of irregularities with signature matching. And then, of course, Willis kicked off the investigation soon after the infamous January phone call, wherein Trump pressures Brad Raffensperger to find the votes necessary for him to win. This is the next layer. Mediaite also reporting Trump's legal woes go from bad to worse as CNN reports potential RICO charges for pressuring Georgia election officials. So what do I believe is going to happen? I have no idea. As I've said for a long time, I believe indictments are plausible and prison time is essentially an impossibility for Donald Trump. I've explained why numerous times, so I won't do it here. This is very serious stuff. There's no doubt that these are potentially very serious charges. At the same time, many of you, like me, have been stuck in this sort of time loop where we're always close to possible charges stemming from this or that blatant violation of a law that we read about. And yet, quote, nothing happens. On the one hand, I feel that frustration. I share that frustration. And there is a feeling that this is just never going to happen. On the other hand, when you speak to legal experts, they do say these things take a while. Oftentimes, when you look at white collar crimes by non-presidents, just by, a CEO of a tech company or a bank or whatever the case may be, it can take years to build these cases. Here we're talking about a man who was and is now a former sitting president. And so the timeline is not actually that unusual. It's just that in most cases, we're not following investigations and we're not aware of possible charges until much closer to when those charges are announced. So I am not really taking a position as to whether I do or don't think any particular indictment or charge or arrest is going to happen. Trump said he was getting arrested today. It doesn't seem like it's happening. And now the discussion is about either tomorrow or next week. I don't know. I remain convinced that Trump will never see the inside of a prison cell. And the big picture of that is that at the very worst case, if there were a plea or a guilty verdict and there were to be confinement allocated or assigned to Trump, it would be served as home confinement. I think that that is the absolute worst case scenario, but we're not even at that step yet. We are now at the step of there are 4 at least major investigations into Trump. Will any of them lead to an indictment or an arrest? We may know within hours. We may know tomorrow. We may know next week. But the big news from the last 24 hours is whatever happens with this New York Stormy Daniels hush money case, it is not the end of the line, as Georgia, I have believed, is the strongest case for a while now, and it seems as though the most serious charges could indeed come from there. Leave me a comment. Let me know at this point in time, in your heart of hearts, what do you expect is coming? As I've mentioned before, I supplement my diet with vitamins every day. I've tried different methods. None have been simpler or more cost-effective than just a daily scoop of AG1 from our sponsor, Athletic Greens. With the one scoop, I get the 75 high-quality vitamins and minerals from whole food sources that I want. I'm covered for the day. I'm not messing around with different vitamin capsules, and then some have 200 and some have 180, so they run out at different times. And it's a mess. It's a mess. This is simple. The taste is good. You can put it in water, juice, or shakes. Each serving is under $3 a day. Compare that to what all of the individual supplements would cost you, and it just makes sense. Simplify your life by starting the day with a scoop of 75 high-quality nutrients. When you go to athleticgreens.com/Pacman, you'll get a free year supply of vitamin D. I've talked about vitamin D before. And 5 free travel packs of AG1. The link is down below.